Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About It, a Tugi Waiyaki Podcast. This is episode 18, shorts number 6. And this episode is extremely special, extra special. It has some spice because for the first time, I am uploading the visual of the podcast. And this is going up on my YouTube channel called Hiya All the Things. So if you're watching me, hello, welcome back to the channel. If you're listening to me on the podcast, welcome back to Let's Talk About It. You're going to hear me saying a lot of YouTubey things and a lot of podcasty things at the same time because it's on both. So you are probably wondering, Tugi, you mean you had a podcast this whole time and you never said? Well, I said it, but here we are. I'm showing you. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, all the links that you need are in the show notes below, in the description of this video. So click those links, follow the podcast, follow me on social media so you don't miss a thing. If you're listening to me on the podcast and you had no idea that I had a YouTube channel, because I don't usually talk about it on the podcast actually, here we are. Kindly subscribe to my channel. It'll really help me get to where I'm going. The links to the channel are also in my show notes. It's really confusing in my head because these are two different worlds colliding. So anyway, for those who have no idea about the podcast and what we've been talking about, I want to catch you up. So in the month of June and July, we've been doing a series called Mental Health. Men's mental health, a side of the conversation that we don't often hear. And this, I break down on the podcast why this is so important to me as a mental health professional, as someone who studied psychology, as a member of this society. I am concerned about the state of our general mental health, and because men are part of our society, I'm also concerned about their mental health. And so I decided to talk about this, and I had several guests on the podcast come and tell us their experiences, what they've learned, what they've gone through, how they deal with their mental health challenges. And interestingly, Father's Day falls in June. So we also got to talk about fatherhood and the intersection between fatherhood and mental health. And none of my guests are fathers, so we spoke about fatherhood from a son's perspective, and it was extremely intriguing and interesting for me to just hear their experiences. I'm extremely grateful to them as well. Thank you so much for coming onto the internets to share your story. So you may be wondering where you can get the podcast. I'm not sure if I've said this before, but we are available where all podcasts are found. Spotify, Google Podcast, just wherever. The links are in down below. You will find what you're looking for. So now that you have a rough idea of what we've been talking about on the podcast called Let's Talk About It. In this episode, I will be sharing with you some of the lessons I learned from the interviews that I carried out with the guys. So yeah, stay tuned. Don't go. Let's jump right into it. So lesson number 1 that I learned from the whole mental health series is that you need, or everyone needs, a listening ear. People want to be listened to. People have stories to tell, and there's this thing in society. I don't know. I've always grown up hearing it. Women talk so much and men don't talk a lot. So men are perceived to be like held back, and I'm not gonna tell you my issues. But like at the end of the day, you have gone through experiences. You have things that you would like to talk about, and you want to have this space or this person or this place that you can go to and not be judged or not be chastised or lectured about your experience. You just want a place to be listened to. And I think um carrying out these interviews and having the guests on the podcast gave me the chance to be that listening ear, me and our audience, to just listen to people's stories and ask questions and get to know people more. And so in the previous episode, I talked about how you can begin to have this conversation. What questions can you ask your guy friends to help them open up or share their experiences? And as a guy, or as a person who struggles to open up, I don't think you should feel guilty at all if you want to have that listening ear. It's a human thing. We want to be listened to. We want to be loved just as we are. We want to be accepted. And that's found among women and among men as well. You are human. It's a human thing. Lesson number 2. People have gone through a lot, and sometimes we don't really know how to talk about these things. I think it also has to do with being African. We are taught to speak only when um, we're asked a question, only when our input is asked for. But also that trickles down to don't talk about difficult things like grief or loss or disappointment. Hey, if she broke up with you, she broke up with you. That's on you. Don't let us know. We don't know these things. That's your problem. Don't count us with it. But it's so unhealthy, and it really impacts us dangerously. And so sometimes that part for not knowing how to talk about things, I'm thinking of the episode where I spoke to Manolo. It took That's episode 16, and he just shared how after his mom passed away, you couldn't really talk about it. And I'm not gonna give you any spoilers if you haven't listened to the episodes. Go listen to them. It's important. Just go. Aye, just go listen to them. But you hear even from Ian's episode, even from Gabu's episode, there there's this there's just these things we don't talk about. We don't know how to talk about them, so we don't talk about them. But every experience you've gone through, everything that has happened to you is alive within you. It exists within you. And so if you don't talk about it, it grows. And that's the challenging part. Like, how do we have healthy conversations about difficult things that have happened? How do we really talk about men's mental health, women's mental health? Um, like, for me, it starts with this episode. It starts with small questions I ask my friends. It starts with me just sitting and thinking about it and writing about it and questioning what our society deems to be the norm. The norm has proven to be very unhealthy. The norm has left us feeling stuck and not helped and not listened to. Which brings me to my third lesson. Number 3, therapy is so important. Therapy is so important. Therapy, I describe therapy as the process through which you learn, grow, see yourself, really see yourself. But as Dan pointed out, Daniel Litaba, in episode number 12, he said that don't go for therapy if you're not ready and you're not willing to do the work that therapy requires. Therapy is not a place where you go and you're talked to. Therapy is not a place where you're advised or you're fixed. Therapy is a process in which you're literally like opened up, or you open up, you see what is there, you deal with the reality of things, and it requires so much work from you. It requires willingness. It requires you to actually want to change. And so if you don't go to therapy, or if you are skeptical about it, or if it just doesn't make sense to you and you enter the process, it's very likely that you will not come out with the results that would look like you've changed. Like, it'll be extremely difficult for you to go through the process of therapy if you're not willing to go through therapy. And so we spoke about things that you can do to help you unwind, to help you heal. And I think for me, the number one thing is just talking about it. Talking about it with your friends, talking about it with your family, talking about it with people who understand you, who love you, who care for you. Which now brings me to my next lesson number 4. Community is extremely important. Each of the men I spoke to in this series talked about the impact of having mentors, of having good friends, of having church, community, people around you who love you, who know you, who care for you. If you're a believer, who pray for you, who seek God's will for you, with you. Having a community of people who love you and care for you is so important. Your boys, are they just the ones who you play PS with or discuss women with, or are they pushing you to learn about investment, to grow in your relationships? Are they holding you accountable, or are they covering for your misdeeds? Are they torturing you and inciting you to do the wrong thing, or are they working with you to build you? That healthy community is so important for not just your mental health, but your spiritual health, your financial health, for your growth and development. And the beautiful thing about living in community is you get to bless people as well, you get to grow people as well, you get to create a legacy that lasts in the lives of the people around you. You don't have to wait to become a dad to create a legacy. You don't have to wait to become president and in the last year of your pregnancy not pregnancy, in the last year of your presidency, where you're scrambling like, oh my gosh, what is his legacy? Did he build us roads? How much money did he steal? Now that's his legacy. Nah, your daily life gives you the chance to create a legacy. It gives you the chance to impact people's lives. Your choices, your words, your conduct, your dressing, how you carry yourself, your demeanor, all of these things are the ingredients to create a beautiful legacy. So your community is important. The people you choose to hang around, the people you choose to rest around and spend leisure time with, those people create your life. They impact you in such a powerful way. So you have to be really mindful of who you're choosing to be around, what you're consuming together, what you're talking about, how you're spending your time, who you are impacting positively and negatively. That's the other lesson that I learned from the conversations we had in the mental health series. The next lesson is fathers are so important. Oh my goodness. I cannot overstate this. I cannot say this louder or more eloquently than fathers are important. Fathers are so important. And as I spoke to these four gentlemen, they each shared their story. They each shared their experiences with their dads, and you could see how that colored their stories, how that has colored their lives, how that has shaped them into the men that they are today. If you're a dad, if you're listening or if you're watching, and you feel like your input is not important, it is absolutely important. Dads shape us in a way that moms can't. Moms are amazing. Moms are amazing. Moms, where would we be without them? We wouldn't. That's the basic answer. We would not be. But the role that a dad plays in the life of a child, in the life of a young man, in the life of a young woman, cannot be replaced, cannot be exchanged. And so I just want to thank you, if you're listening or if you're watching, as if you're a dad, I want to thank you, and I want to tell you your life is important, your input is important, your impact is important. And as a society, we have to come to terms with the fact that a lot of us do not experience the positive shapings that come from having a dad. And part of talking about mental health and men's mental health is discussing the role of fatherhood, the impact of fatherhood, and of fatherlessness. Your absence or your presence impacts us, not just as individuals, but as society as a whole. And so I'm totally convinced, after listening to those stories that the men shared in the previous episodes, I'm convinced dads are protectors, they are providers, they are so important in shaping who we are and how we are as a society. Okay, so lesson number 6. The last one. Don't leave. Hey, just wait. Don't just okay. So lesson number 6. There's hope. There's hope. There's hope. I can't say that enough times. When we look at our society, things are quite bleak. especially when it comes to mental health and the things that men go through, the things that men are put through, the comparison and competition, and how society has really moved and focused and highlighted on women and their health and their protection. And whew, I'm gonna upset some people when I say this. So there's this move um to bash men and to bring down the patriarchy. I'm not here to talk about the patriarchy. I'm not here defending them. I'm not here to uproot them, remove them, move them. I'm not here to support them, uphold them. That's not what I'm talking about. But as a society, we're slowly turning away from let's be united, let's build each other up, to y'all need to get down so we can come up. And I don't agree with that perspective. I don't agree with that view of creating society. I believe that for us to be wholesome and healthy, we have to care for one another. We have to be sensitive to ones. Hey, yawa. We have to be sensitive towards one another. And when I say there's hope, I mean that we still have time to care for one another and correct the wrongs that each gender has made towards each other. I'm not saying men are blameless. Neither am I saying women are blameless. I think we each have a responsibility to care for one another, to listen to one another, to grow with each other. And that starts by knowing who we are and understanding what our role in society is. And so there are a lot of deadbeat dads. There are a lot of hearts that have been broken by men who didn't take their responsibility seriously, be it in romantic relationships, be it in business, be it in even raising children. There's a lot of slacking that has happened, and that makes women angry, that makes them feel disgruntled, that makes them want to seek justice and sometimes even to revenge. Or you think you can just slip around, even us can slip around. That doesn't, two wrongs don't make a right. Yeah. And so when I come and say that there's hope, I believe that there's hope because there are still people willing to talk about what they've gone through, to talk about their experiences. There are still men willing to be good fathers. There are still men willing to be loved and to love and to open up and to be vulnerable and to go to therapy and, to do all the work that they need to do to become healthy individuals. Basically, what I'm saying is you have an individual's responsibility to make your society a better place. I have an individual responsibility to make my society a safer, healthier, better space for the members of my society. And so that's why I'm having this conversation on the podcast and on YouTube. That's why I'm talking about it with my friends in my offline world. That's why I want to be that friend who you can come and talk to, who will listen to you. That's why I want to be that friend who will encourage you to go to therapy when I'm like, hey, I can't help you. But even if you don't want to go to therapy, we still can't be friends. We can. But all I'm saying is there's hope. If you care for the people around you and if you love them, then you'd want to see them healthier and happier and whole. And so my hope, as I say that there's hope, is that you will take on the challenge to talk about how you are, to talk with the people around you about how they are, and to just see this society grow healthier and better and more wholesome for both men and women. So there you have it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to share, to subscribe, to talk to your people about how they really are. As we come to the end of the mental health series, I just hope that you're picking up lessons and points and things that you can practice in your real life. If you'd like to find resources about where to get a therapist and all of that, kindly DM me or comment below. Let's get the help we need. Let's become healthier. Let's become a society that's more loving, more accepting, just a healthy place to be, a healthy place to live. So there you have it. Thank you so much. See you in the next one. Bye. Wow, 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 wow. Tubu subscribanga. Subscribanga. Jamani. One more thing I forgot to say. If you're watching this on the YouTubes, do you want me to have more visual podcast episodes? Let me know. Also, what do you want me to talk about on the podcast? I forgot to say send me voice messages on Anchor. Anyway, there you have it. Do the thing. Subscribe, share, like, all of them. Thank you. See you in the next one.